next to you, is that cream of lutefisk soup?
Yes.
That sounds delicious.
Only if you're Swedish or Norwegian or Finnish or Danish.
Is that even a real thing?
No, I'm sure not. I pray not. This wall is not representative of our art collection at all. This is just sort of Lizzie's goofy stuff here.
All right, I think we're set, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we've worked all this out. So Leslie, we're good to go.
All right, so I've got the roll call in front of me. We'll call the meeting to order and begin as always with reading the vision statement, which is to develop, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. So welcome everyone. Thanks to Jessica again for attending in person, and it seems like pretty much everybody else is online. I will go ahead and give the roll call. Lizzie Taylor.
Here.
Jessica Peters.
Here.
Natalie Schofield.
Here.
Bonnie Zong-Griffith.
Present.
I'm here. Maria Tsompa. Jennifer Cavanis-Williams. Tom Benucci.
Here.
Logan Cloninger. And Joe Borton. Joe's present, right, Joe?
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
Oh, great. So everyone's with us but Maria and Jennifer today, so that's wonderful. And we also have someone that we're going to welcome today. We're getting a new, it's not official yet, but we are going to be getting our new youth commissioner. Rhea, are you online?
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Did I say your name correctly?
Yeah, it's Rhea.
Rhea Wardle. Well, thank you. I understand you're going to be, it'll be going to City Council on, I believe, the 13th.
Yeah.
But we are so happy you could join us for the meeting today and listen in and kind of get a feel for things. So welcome. And do you have any questions before we go on?
No.
Okay. Let's see. We are going to move to look at the agenda. Audrey, are there any changes that we need? Before we
can adopt it. Yeah, we can adopt it as is.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Seconded.
The agenda. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we have the approval of the monthly financial statements, which we received in our packets. Are there any, is there anything you want to bring out, Audrey, or are there any questions from the commissioners with regard to the budget that came in the packet?
One note that not all of the payments for the fiscal year 2020 have been processed. I will give a final updated version next month. I always get this report at the beginning of the month. So if I process any payments like on the last day of the month, they might not show up in our report. So the end of our fiscal year was on September 30th, and those payments will be updated, and we've started a new fiscal year this October 1st.
Okay, well, it's a good time to start a new year.
Madam Chair,
All for that, yes.
I have just one question for clarity, and forgive me because I'm still catching up as we are new. Could someone just give clarity to the line item It's 11/26/2019 to Daniel Borup, was for the sculpture at Fire Station 6. There was a credit to, did we get it for free? I'm just confused. There's a double entry there that we paid it and then we reversed it out.
Yeah, Audrey, could you fill us in on that? I see that it's highlighted too.
I don't know exactly what happened there, but the payment you're referring to is one of 3 payments we made to Daniel Borup for our newest public art piece that was installed this July. So that was, I believe, our first payment to him in his fabrication process. I don't know the exact process of why it looked like it was paid and then retracted, but that was our first payment that ultimately went through to him.
Okay, so we'll just have an update on that then. Thanks for bringing that out, Tom. We'll have to see how that comes out. Could this be one of the things that you're talking about, that it's just not caught up?
I'm
The
sure,
current-
commissioners, it is caught up.
Okay.
There
I'm
must
just-
have been,
Madam Chair, it does show up later on that page. It looks like it didn't get processed because it didn't have the PO with
Oh,
it,
there
the
it
purchase.
is.
But it did later that same day, it went through.
It did. Do you see that, Tom?
Yes, thank
Down
you.
below,
I
yeah.
apologize for missing it. Thank you.
I
Yep.
should have seen that too. So, but thanks for bringing it up. Now we know. And is there anything else to be brought out before we consider a motion? If not, we would consider a motion on the approval of the financial statement for the month.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the financial statement.
Second,
Madam Chair, I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moving on then to new business, public meeting law review and training. Emily, would you like to take us through that? And thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Audrey, what next?
so you should have the ability to share your screen.
Okay, if I,
Uh-huh.
okay, your entire screen, yes. Well, I'm trying. Oh, here. I'm sharing the screen. Oops. Start at the beginning. Okay. Does everyone see the slide that says open meetings law?
I do not.
I do not.
Sorry.
Okay.
Emily, we're looking at your view of the Zoom meeting.
Oh,
I wonder if,
let me try again.
there you are.
There it is.
How about now? Okay.
Yep, got it.
Okay. Believe it or not, this is my first presentation on Zoom. I've managed to avoid it until now. So thank you. I've learned a new skill. My name is Emily Kane. I don't know if I've met all of you in person, but I am an attorney in our city attorney's office, and I provide support to the Arts Commission. So I'm here to attend your meeting, but also to provide a quick little training on open meetings law. So what is the open meeting law? The open meeting law is a chapter in the Transparent and Ethical Government Act, which is in Title 74 of the Idaho Code. It's in Chapter 2. The purpose of the open meetings law is stated right in the statute. And basically it says that the people created the government, but the government really is for and of the people. So public business should not be conducted in secret, but all the people, all the public need to be invited to participate in the acts of government. So the Meridian Arts Commission is a governmental sub-agency serving the people of Meridian. Which means, does the open meeting law apply to the Meridian Arts Commission? Yes. The relevant provision says that all meetings of a governing body of a public agency shall be open to the public. So just to unpack that a little bit, a public agency includes cities and any of their sub-agencies. So that's, of course, the city of Meridian and its commissions. A governing body is a board with the authority to make decisions or recommendations. So there's, of course, city council makes decisions. The Meridian Arts Commission makes recommendations, and this also applies to your subcommittees because your subcommittees make recommendations to MAC. The third relevant word in there is the word meeting. So I'm going to give you the magic formula to determine whether a meeting is happening. And believe it or not, this actually sometimes, quite frequently, does matter to you. So a meeting is wherever there's a quorum of commissioners, and the quorum is half plus 1. You have 9 commissioners, so that makes your quorum 5 commissioners. So anytime 5 commissioners are together and they're making a decision or deliberating, and of course a decision is an action, but deliberation is any time that you're receiving information, exchanging opinions, any of those actions related to the business of the Arts Commission. So a quorum plus receiving information related to Arts Commission business. Now you're in a meeting. To comply with the open meetings law, all commissions and their committees, the meetings must comply with all of these provisions. They have to be noticed prior to convening, so 48 hours prior to your regular meeting. Your regular meeting, of course, is the second Thursday of every month, or 24 hours prior to a special meeting. The word notice really indicates that it's been posted at City Hall and on the city website. And of course, Audrey and the clerk's office takes care of that for you. Meetings must be open to the public. All persons must have the opportunity to attend. So this means that the meetings must be held in a place where there's no discrimination on the basis of race or gender or disability. Meetings must follow an agenda. So it's your duty to strive to follow the published and adopted agenda, and there'll maybe come a time where you get a little far afield. It's easy to do that in the course of a discussion, and I might steer you back to the agenda, or you might if you recognize yourself going off topic. The law does allow you to amend your agenda after it's been noticed, or even during the meeting, but recently it's become much harder to do that. Anything that is added to the agenda during the meeting cannot be acted upon. Deliberation can happen if there's a really good reason to add it. I believe the language of the statute is for good cause shown. So if it's necessary to add something to an agenda, you can, but you can't act on it. And finally, there have to be at least summary minutes, which Audrey again takes care of you. Your meetings are also recorded, so there could be a transcript that would work as well. So having heard all the ways all the things that need to happen for you to comply with the open meeting law, you might notice that it would actually be pretty easy to evade the open meeting law. For example, you could have a meeting of 4 commissioners, so less than a quorum, or you could call each other on the phone. You could have Audrey take a poll and figure out where each of you are on the different agenda items ahead of time. Don't do that. When you do that, this is our Attorney General, Lawrence Wasden. He writes in his excellent manual that you should not evade the open meeting law by having these smaller meetings. Sometimes they're called serial meetings. And though it might be, doable for you to evade the open meeting law. That would, violate the spirit, certainly, of the open meeting law. So please don't do that. One aspect of compliance with the open meeting law is ex parte information gathering. So that's wherever you're receiving information off the record or outside of a meeting. So if you have informal conversation with citizens, like you run into somebody at the grocery store and they tell you what they think about something on your agenda, or someone sends you an email, calls you on the phone, even unsolicited opinions are ex parte. They're not happening during a meeting. Or if you were to go to the site of a public art installation or do research, conduct interviews, or just any kind of off the record sort of information gathering that you're doing creates an open meeting issue. It deviates from the public record. And remember, the legislative intent is that the public business can't be conducted in secret. When you're alone or even with another commissioner, or maybe especially, that's not doing it on the public record, or rather a public meeting. That's in secret. The Supreme Court characterizes it as having a second fact gathering session without proper notice. So nobody's invited to your fact gathering. Nobody knows that you're doing it. So the best way to handle ex parte information is to avoid it. Now, you can't always do that. The commission is not held to a standard of disinterestedness. There's a reason that you're on the Arts Commission. You live in Meridian, you work in Meridian, you love Meridian, you like the Meridian art scene, or you want to help it grow. So that's why you're on the commission. You're not supposed to pretend like you're just completely blind to Meridian and the arts. So you also, you don't have to change your route to work in order to avoid viewing the scene of an art installation, or you don't have to really go out of your way to sort of be a completely removed member of the community, of course. So whenever you encounter ex parte information, the best way to handle it is to disclose it on the record. If someone calls you or sends you an email, you can disclose the identity of that person and the general nature of what they said, and that cleanses that sort of off the record communication. If you, as a commission, want to go look at the site of an art installation, that can happen. Audrey can notice a public meeting, and you can meet there. The public would be invited, and you would have minutes of that meeting. And that's another way to kind of bring in that. Now it's not off the record at all. It's during a meeting. The open meetings law does not require that the commission take public comments or public testimony, but Leslie or the commission president may allow that. Sometimes that is part of the agenda. It's noticed as an item for which the public is invited to provide testimony or comments, and that, of course, is fully appropriate, but it doesn't require you to do that. An executive session is where the commission needs to talk about something essentially behind closed doors. This happens a lot with city council. There are exceptions for personnel issues and kind of labor issues, attorney-client privilege information or confidential information. And so it's really unlikely that the Arts Commission would encounter this. And if you feel that you're going to, please let me know ahead of time. There's kind of we do need to still notice that. And there's a process for going into and out of executive session and preparing minutes. So I'd mention it to you just because it's part of the open meetings law. But again, it's not something probably that we would use. Telephone meetings are an aspect of the open meeting law that it was one of the surprises of 2020 is how prominent this became, because it states that the Arts Commission can meet by telephone conference call, and we've interpreted that to include online platforms. if at least one commissioner is physically present at the notice location. So Jessica is our tribute. Thank you. The communications have to be audible to everyone who's attending. And of course, you can't vote in secret. We couldn't be having a sidebar conversation in the chat or a vote in the chat. So the first orange bullet was waived this year by the governor. The governor issued an executive order that said nobody has to be physically present. The meeting can still happen online and everyone can be there. That was the only provision that was waived. So the public still had to be invited. And so the Zoom links were made available to everybody. But from now on, that's of course not waived anymore. So we do need to have at least one person physically present. The same principle applies with email, texts, social media. Whenever you have a quorum of commissioners on an email thread and you're deliberating, that's probably an illegal meeting. It violates the notice requirement. Of course, no one's been notified of your email thread. Nobody's physically present. There's no physical location. No one can hear you, and you, in theory, could be voting. It also creates another issue. The Idaho Public Records Act is in Chapter 1 of the Transparent and Ethical Government Act, and it states that all public records are subject to disclosure. In Idaho, you can create a public record as long as it's in writing and it's about city business. So if you, even if you're using your personal email account, your personal phone, your personal computer, you can still be creating a public record, which creates a problem for me because if I get a request for it, of course, I don't have access to your personal email account. So I'm really at your mercy for you to go and find the record that we're looking for. And there is, keep in mind when you're talking about city business over email, since those are public records, just imagine, so the litmus test is imagine that being on the front page of the paper, or imagine having to give that to the press. So of course, I have no doubt that all of you are being professional, but also please be judicious. Make sure you're following the open meetings laws and not deliberating over email. Now, an administrative message is not deliberation. So Audrey telling you when and where the meeting is and giving you information, the packet before the meeting, or making arrangements to meet at a particular time. Those are not deliberation. Those are just administrative messages. So that's a little different. So you violated the open meeting law. What do we do? So any action that violates the meeting law is void. And then everything after that is sort of the fruit of the poisonous tree. It's also void. The fix is to do it over from the beginning. And as painful as it might be to admit it, I really encourage you to come to me or Audrey and let us know if that's maybe happened. Disclosure can cure a lot of ills. So there are a lot of things that could be maybe entered into the public record or just kind of brought in. Those ex parte things that happen can be brought into the public record in the public meeting, and that can resolve a lot of it. But sometimes it does mean a complete do-over from the very beginning. And if anyone's knowingly violating the law, so kind of being sneaky and having secret meetings, which again, who does that? No one would do that. But just to let you know, the law does allow you to be sued as an individual. So you're vested with this kind of duty to comply. I haven't heard of that happening, but it's not unheard of for there to be, it definitely hasn't happened in Meridian. It's not unheard of for those things to happen around the state. There are criminal consequences in very rare occasions, but any affected citizen can sue. I'm going to give you a little ethics in government trailer just while I have this platform, but this is the really high overview. If you want more information about this, I'd be happy to provide a separate training. As I mentioned, the open meeting law is part of the Transparent and Ethical Government Act, and this is part of the ethical piece of that. So commissioners cannot contract with the city. There are exceptions for volunteer commissioners, which you are, but there's quite a bit of rigmarole. So again, please let me know if you are interested in bidding on a contract with the city, and we'll walk you through that. Conflicts of interest are about money. So if you as an arts commissioner are making a decision that could result in a monetary benefit to you or someone in your household, then again, let me know. There's a way to cleanse that most of the time, but we just need to know about that ahead of time. Commissioners may not accept gifts. The state code talks about more than $50 in value. The city code actually says no gifts. So please do not accept gifts as an arts commissioner. And I would say there's always a cookie exception. So if anyone's bringing cookies and treats to the Arts Commission, that's completely different. That's sustenance, not gifts. And of course, please don't be corrupt or take bribes. So again, happy to go over the details of those laws at another time. In conclusion, if you ever have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me or any of my colleagues. This is all of us. If you'd like to read the Idaho Code yourself, here's how you get there. And the Attorney General's office has some good manuals with some frequently asked questions about all of these topics. I'll come back to this, but just to let you know, in the interest of time, I kind of cut this out of my presentation, but I have these little quizzes that for kind of the long version, which I'll spare you. But if you want to look at those after Audrey has this handout, I would encourage you to do that. In the meantime, are there any questions for me?
Thank you, Emily. That was really clear. And I think I just have a comment. I think usually what we've run into trouble with are the email streams. You know, every once in a while, we just kind of get on that track. And so that pops out to me as what we need to keep our eye on the most. So thank you. And did you say this will be available to us?
Yes.
Okay.
I will provide this to Audrey, so it'll be in your minutes. And if anyone would like me to email it, we can do that too.
Okay. I think in the minutes is fine. Are there any other comments or questions for Emily?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Tom.
I would just publicly like to thank Emily for taking the time to do everything she just did with me. It was I went and I read the Idaho law, but she added great clarity. And as a new commissioner, I think I inadvertently had approached that line, but and it was back to your point of the email, exactly what you said. And so I have a very clear understanding of how to move forward and still conduct our business within the law. And I'd like to thank her for taking the time to educate me. And it was very helpful.
Thank you for those comments, Tom. And I agree, Emily, we need to, visit this on a regular basis, just to remind ourselves, because it's easy to get, busy with our lives. It's easy to just jot out that quick email. It's easy to go down and those roads. And so it's good to have a reminder. We used to have a little bit more on this on a regular agenda item. So maybe we should add that back in, Emily. Do you remember when we used to have that on there was an agenda item that was on the regular thing that you would give us a point of order or teach us about something each time? Maybe quarterly we could revisit.
Sure, I'd be glad to do that.
That would be great. And thank you. I loved your format too, with a little owl.
Thank you.
Really
I always
good.
want open meeting law, OML, to be OWL. But it just never is. So my tribute.
I love it. Thanks again. And Audrey, let's put that on quarterly. And then, of course, Emily, if you think we've been being perfect and everything's great, then we can take it off the agenda. But I just think having
Yeah.
it on quarterly is a good idea. It gives you an opportunity to give us a refresher course, keep us all going down the right path. So, all right. What's next? Yeah. We need to look at the Meridian mural series locations. Jessica or Audrey? Lizzie, who wants to take that one? I can't hear you, Audrey. Audrey, are you muted?
No, Audrey and I were discussing who was going to present.
Oh, okay.
So this was something that we took up at our last subcommittee meeting a few weeks ago. And Audrey presented the locations of all of the folks who had submitted statements of interest to participate in our mural project. And then we all voted. We kind of reviewed them and voted on which ones we thought would work the best. The folks who submitted the statements of interest also included suggested themes or topics for the murals. So usually they were kind of relevant for their location, something that made sense for that, but that's something that we will decide in our next round when we are choosing the artists. We will work with the artists to develop the topics or the themes for the murals. So Audrey has sent out in the meeting packet kind of a 2-slide presentation of the different locations. And Audrey, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. So do you want to fill us in on what you did?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, as explanation, in the Public Art Subcommittee, they ranked the locations from highest ranked to lowest ranked, kind of prioritized what they would most prefer the locations to be and least prefer. We weren't able to actually choose the locations because we needed some extra research on how to price out each of those locations, and so which locations we would be able to do in our total budget. So if you remember from our financial statement, our total budget for this project is $21,000 and $21,300. So in looking at the Public Art Subcommittee's priorities and their rank, I put together basically 2 packages for the commission to choose from. The first, if you open the attachment on the agenda, the first slide is 3 locations, and those are the highest ranked locations that we would be able to afford in combination with each other. So Boise Co-op was the #1 ranked location by the Public Art Subcommittee. Then Sage Point was the 2nd ranked. And then Meridian Bicycle was the 4th ranked, but we wouldn't be able to afford the 3rd ranked. Anyways, I don't want to make this too convoluted, but basically, according to ranking, this is the package that would fit in our budget. I also put together a second package, which is the second slide, of 4 locations. They are all in the Meridian downtown area. I wanted to give the commission that option. Several of these were ranked highly, several of these were ranked lower on the priority scale, but we would also be able to afford this combination of locations. So these are basically 2 packages for the commission to consider of locations that we can afford. So we can vote between the first package or the second package in our location series.
Okay, thanks, Audrey and Jessica. I think, can somebody clarify for me where the Sage Point building is located? I don't know where that is.
Madam Chair, that is located it's on Main Street, right at around Broadway. It's essentially across the street from the Heritage Building. If you're
Okay.
standing at the Heritage Building and look across the street, you'll see the Sage Point Building. It's pretty nondescript, not noticeable, but the perfect space right on Main Street for a mural.
Yeah, I like the idea of having, a couple of these downtown Meridian. And then one, that reaches out a little bit into a different area as well. I
Madam
like that
Chair.
first package, yes.
Yeah,
Who's
so
speaking?
actually, Audrey, I have a question about how you assigned the dollar amounts to each of these, because I don't think that that's something that we discussed in our meeting.
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I did a lot of research on the pricing of murals. I looked at many different states and cities and what they were charging for their murals. I looked at a lot of other cities' RFQs for muralists, and I took their price and I divided it by the amount of square feet. And I took the average of all these RFQs that I've researched, and the average, there's a huge range of charging artists from $5 per square foot to the highest one I saw was $40 per square foot, but that was kind of an outlier. Most of them were between $10 and $20 per square foot. And so I took it right in the middle and I calculated the cost by doing $15 per square foot. And then if the property needed scaffolding or if it was larger, I increased the amount by a couple $100s so that the artist would be able to afford to organize or rent scaffolding and things like that.
Okay, thank you. This is great. We've been looking at this for so long. It's so nice to see the actual locations and some numbers and start to make this work. Now, so I noticed that on the 15th is when the notice will go out. The RF, is that right?
Madam Chair, the plan is to release the RFQ on the 16th.
Oh, the 16th. Okay. Good. And are we going to be up against, for the visual artists in the room, does temperature affect ability to paint? Are we taking that into account?
Madam Chair, that is something that we'll need to consider given the timeline is late summer, September, meaning the latest. So when we get to that point, we can either do it if it works with the artist, we can do it in the hot months of July and August or the cooler month of September. So given that 3-month period, we'll be able to work with the weather.
Great, we have options. Good. Well, I'm liking this top package, and it also comes closer to our actual budget. It uses more of it, and I understand that this budget is specifically meant for the murals. So I like the idea of, coming as close to utilizing the money that we've been given as possible. We still have a little cushion here if the scaffolding costs more, or because didn't you say we have 21,300?
That's correct.
Great. Commissioners, comments, questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Tom.
I need a point of clarity, please, for the content of the RFP or RFQ. Is the content of those listed in item number 2 of proposals accepted? Is this what the content of the RFP or RFQ would be? Or is there a standard one that, forgive me if there's a standardized one that the city uses and I'm unfamiliar with?
We don't have a standardized one that's used. Audrey, could you speak to his his question?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Tom, are you referring to the drafted RFQ? In the drafted RFQ, this is the next agenda item, but
Oh, sorry. I beg your
Yeah.
pardon.
so in the drafted RFQ, I just in kind of a placeholder did site 1, site 2, site 3 because I wasn't sure which package the commissioners would choose. So the locations haven't been selected yet. As soon as I know what locations the commission selects, then I'll be able to input that information in the drafted RFQ.
Thank you for the clarity. I apologize.
No, thank you. That's good. I think are there any more questions to be brought up? Because you bring up a good point, Tom, that we have to, and Audrey, that we need to make this decision on the location package prior to being able to complete that RFQ, so and get it out there. So why don't we, are there any comments on the locations themselves or anything to be brought up for clarity? And if not, we would consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I'm just wondering, are we not nervous but cautious that the first one is only giving us $300 worth of wiggle room? Or are we feeling confident that we'll come in at that number and be okay? Because I know we've been told that we can't go over, there's not extra funding if we do go over. So is that a worry, or do we think that we'll be fine?
I think we should be fine, especially since Audrey said she'd padded a little bit for the possibility of needing scaffolding, and she took a very, a relatively conservative approach to how she calculated by going, with the $15 as opposed to the lowest, because it was
Right.
between 10 and 20. Audrey, do you feel comfortable with that
Madam Chair and
contingencies
Commissioners,
have been taken into consideration?
I wanted to be cautious, like Natalie said, and I considered this as I was pricing out all of these. However, the pattern I noticed in my research in all these RFQs that I went through, and in our RFQ, the amount that we pay the artists is for the entire completion of the mural. That includes the design of the mural, the priming of the wall. The artist is responsible for getting the scaffolding. So our total payment for the artist is to make this project possible for them. So the payment is for the artist to complete the entire project. We won't be doing any other side work for the artist. The artist is responsible for everything in this project. So it shouldn't, extra costs shouldn't come back to us. It will go back to the artist.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Audrey, for clarifying that part. I didn't realize that once we set the payment, that's all they're going to get.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. That was a good point to be brought up. Really good point to be brought up. And thank you, Audrey, for your response on that and clarifying that. Are there more questions, comments, concerns?
Madam Chair, I was just going
yes.
to add clarity to that. It's a project-based payment, and the deliverables and requirements within the project are finite. And if the artist accepts the project, they accept the payment.
Yep.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so anything else to be brought up? I'd like to thank the Public Art Committee and Audrey for all the work that you've put into finding these locations, giving the parameters of what the scope of the money would need to be, and coming up with the packages that utilize the money as best as possible. I do tend to be leaning towards the top package myself, but can we have some comments? Lizzie, you look like you have something you're thinking.
Oh, I always have something to say. Maybe I missed it in the agenda items, but when will the I take it that at the next Public Arts Commission meeting, which is on the 15th, that we will decide, correct me if I'm wrong, the final locations based on these input from Audrey from the 2 different packages. Provided that is the case, when will the winning places be notified? In other words, when will, let's say, Boise Co-op be told you've been chosen? When will that happen? Maybe I missed something along the way.
Is that on the
Madam Chair.
timeline that came along with at the bottom of this document? I know there's here we go. January 21st, applicants will be notified of the decision. So
Madam
that's
Chair.
the applicants. I'm not seeing
Madam
seeing
Chair,
that. Audrey.
that document that you're reading is the RFQ for muralists.
Yeah.
Today, we're
Right.
going to, I think, take a vote on which location package. So the locations will be finalized today. Then I will edit the RFQ with feedback that the commission gives me. The location property owners will be notified of our final decision today. They'll be notified tomorrow, once we have our vote today for which location package to choose.
Awesome.
Oh,
So it happens immediately. So coming back to, if there's no further discussion, we would consider a motion to accept either package number 1 or package number 2 as proposed by the Public Art Committee.
Madam Chair, I have a question first.
Yes, who's speaking?
This is Jessica. Sorry,
Oh,
you
hi,
can't see
Jessica.
because of the mask.
Oh, there you are.
I just had a question about option number 2. So the total amount of money that we have available to us is the 21,000, and so package number 2 is significantly lower than that. So what happens to any of the money that we don't spend? Does that go, like, can we use it for another sort of smaller informal mural project? Does it go into the general Arts Commission budget? What happens to that money?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, that is a great question. I am unsure of the process. My first inclinations is that it would go back to the general city fund. But I could reach out to the finance department and see if we could reassign that funding for traffic boxes or something else.
Yeah.
But originally that money was assigned to the mural project. So I think if we don't use it for the mural project, it would go back to the general fund.
I think especially the section of the money that came from the budget enhancement, I think that's very specific, and it's kind of use it or lose it on that. I don't think we can use it for anything else. And I think that was $11,000 of it, right? $11,000 was that budget enhancement.
Madam Chair, the budget enhancement was $7,000, and then we received an additional $13,000.
Okay. 7,000. All right. I think it's become very clear that I like the idea of using as much as we can of what we were given, since that's what we've been tasked to do with that money. I like the locations on the top.
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
think it would be easiest if we cast a vote for
Yes.
package number 1 and package number 2 so that we can be clear on what our final locations would be.
Okay, so you're talking about a roll call vote for each package, or just a motion for one package or the other?
I think a roll call vote would be best. That would give each commissioner the opportunity to cast a vote for option package 1 or package 2.
Okay, great. Let's do that then. If there's no further
Madam Chair, at the end of that, there does need to be a motion and a vote on the motion. So, but I think it's an okay way to start.
Okay, great. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to go back up here, and Lizzie, you're first.
package number 1.
Jessica,
Madam Chair, I vote for package number 1.
Natalie,
Number 1, please.
Bonnie,
Number 2.
I'm going to go with number 1. Tom,
Tom, I think you're muted.
I beg your pardon, Madam Chair, I vote for number 1, package 1.
and that's all the commissioners we have present, correct? Okay, great. So with that polling done, we would consider a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I think I know what I'm talking about. I move that we accept package number 1 as presented to us as the final, not winners, but the places that have been assigned to have a mural done for them. Is that clear?
Yes, yes. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will get them notified and now we can get that RFQ prepared. Thank you, Audrey, and thank you everyone for a thorough discussion, and thank you to the Public Art Committee for bringing such clear packages and making it easier for us. So,
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
one more final question. Mark Newman is the manager at Boise Co-op here in Meridian. And he's, I wouldn't say a good friend, but he's a friend of mine. He knows that I'm on the Meridian Arts Commission. We've never discussed anything like that. I've never discussed any Meridian Arts Commission stuff, but he knows that I'm on the commission. He's familiar with my art, blah, blah, blah. What if he, in the next couple of days, says, oh, the co-op is so happy to have been selected. What do I say? I mean, it's
well,
not.
that's a question for you in light of what we were talking about before. That's a good question. Could we?
Because I can't go mute all of a sudden and say, duh.
Emily, help.
Good question, Madam Chair. So this is a public meeting, so Mark could have watched this meeting. So he's welcome to know all aspects of the discussion that you've had today. So that's, it's a very preliminary decision. It's just kind of deciding where to focus the, like your motion said, what to do next. So if you see him, in fact, if you want to call him, it's completely fine because he could be here right now.
Okay.
It's just as though we're meeting in City Hall and we're sitting in the audience. So it's fine to disclose everything that's happened.
Oh, good. Okay, because he's a very vocal guy, and he's going to be all excited and whatever. And I don't want to just sort of look like the town mute. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You know what, that was such a functional application of what Emily brought, because that we were talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it hadn't been discussed in a meeting and he brought it up, that would be ex parte, correct, Emily? But if it's been disclosed and discussed in an open meeting, then it's a follow-up to something that's already public knowledge.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of the way that works back and forth. I just like saying the words ex parte too. It makes me feel really smart.
Yeah. Very fancy.
Isn't it? So thank you for that clarity. We now are going to, on the same line, we're going to review and approve the RFQ and now Audrey has already explained to us the question that Tom brought up, that she will be adding the specifics in that placeholder to the RFQ that she's prepared. So knowing that, are there any questions or concerns to be brought out about the RFQ?
Chair, I have a question or a suggestion that I'd like to solicit the input from the rest of the commissioners on. So in our eligibility statement, we note that the project is open to applicants regardless of race, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, nationality, or disability. I think that's standard language that we include on all of our RFQs. But I wanted to get a sense from the rest of the commissioners whether, and also from Emily, whether we can actually do this, to include a statement encouraging folks from underrepresented or marginalized communities, or people of color, or something to that effect, encouraging folks specifically from those communities to apply. Obviously, we are required to consider all submissions equally, regardless of any of these aspects of the applicant. But you know, as I've kind of mentioned in our public art subcommittee meeting, and possibly in our general meeting as well, that I think it's important to make sure that we are reaching, you know, everybody in Meridian and in the Treasure Valley, especially folks whose voices may have been underrepresented in the past. So I wanted to get a sense from Emily whether that's something that we could include, that kind of statement, and from commissioners whether that's something that that people are interested in including in our RFQ.
Emily, can you start us on that?
Madam Chair, commissioners, so there is no legal problem with that. I would recommend actually that this entire section, the eligibility section, be moved up to project overview. It really doesn't lay out any particular eligibility requirements. And I think that language would make more sense actually, as would kind of the rest of this section, just as part of the overall project information. I think this is a vestige of a template where we were, I think, limiting it geographically. So, and probably maybe some other eligibility requirements, but this really doesn't have any. This is really just encouraging everyone. So adding language to that effect would be okay. I would just ask that we move all of this up to the overview.
So are you suggesting that if we don't have eligibility as a category, that the language goes up to the project overview, or are you suggesting that we move the eligibility paragraph up?
I'm suggesting that we take out the word eligibility.
Okay.
And then take those two paragraphs and move them into the project overview. And I think that establishes that this, I mean, we're not saying that eligibility is focused on any particular group. The mention of that group, if you choose to do that, there's no legal bar to that, as long as it is, particularly, I should say, the way that Jessica framed it. So I think that putting those two things together, moving it up and or adding it, I think would do a lot of good.
And Madam
And
Chair.
there's no.
Yes, Tom.
I do think, thank you, Emily. I agree with Emily's recommendation, but I believe eligibility is some of our eligibility elements are listed in item number 2. To be eligible for consideration, we're asking an artist to give me a summary of their team's experience. We are asking for 15 images of their artwork. That's what we're the expectation to be eligible for consideration. And or I believe that we should then develop eligibility requirements that then helps inform the potential artists of what they need to submit.
Yes, thank you, Tom. That might be a better use of the word eligibility and make more sense, to make it more clear to what the artists need to be able to bring. And then if we move, this project is open to applicants regardless, so if we move the eligibility and expand upon to proposals accepted, and then we move the paragraph that's now under eligibility up above and combine it into project overview. I think that's a good idea. Is this making sense, Audrey?
Madam Chair, I'm following.
Okay. So why don't we work a little bit, since we need to get this done. I don't usually like to work in committee on language, but Jessica, did you have any language that you'd like to add with regard to what you brought up in the beginning that could maybe be, I'm wondering if we could just change this project is open to applicants regardless of race, gender. I mean, that needs to be there, but if we could change the paradigm a little bit and make it encouraging to, this project is open and we encourage all applicants regardless of race, gender, maybe that adding the word encourage to that line.
So, Madam Chair, the language that I'll suggest, and I'm certainly open to edits to that. So the language that I would suggest would be something like, so the acronym that is used these days is BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. So BIPOC, BIPOC, and members of underrepresented or marginalized communities are encouraged to apply.
I like that. I like that. I think it's clear to the point, and yes. So where would we, but this project is open to applicants. Teams of artists, designers, and engineers are welcome to apply. Treasure Valley artists are encouraged to apply. I think right after Treasure Valley artists are encouraged to apply, can you read that language again?
Yeah, so BIPOC and members of underrepresented and marginalized communities are encouraged to apply.
Okay, so you said that we're, sorry, I'm just thinking, you said that we, Treasure Valley artists, that's what we're limiting it to, right? So we need to say that.
Madam Chair, this RFQ is open to anyone regardless of their location. However, we will not be providing lodgings. So lodgings or residency for artists who apply. So if an out of state or an out of city artist applies, they will have to fund that themselves. So that I think it's unlikely that artists out of the city or state will apply.
Okay, that's going to kind of self-filter because of the budget. Okay, so teams of artists, designers, and/or engineers are welcome to apply. Treasure Valley artists. How could we put that in that sentence?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Natalie.
could you, after you say Treasure Valley artists, comma, and then say the BIPOC or members of underrepresented communities are encouraged to apply. So it's kind of, those are the people that we are kind of like local residents, people of color, and underrepresented are kind of our not focus, but you know, they're mentioned, and then it would kind of flow together because it already says like teams of artists, designers, and then the other people are encouraged rather than just welcome. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, thank you. Very good. So, Jessica, would you mind doing adding that and just speaking it? I just am such an oral learner. Speaking it, Treasure Valley artists, comma, then insert your language.
Right.
And
so
read the sentence.
Treasure Valley artists, comma, BIPOC, comma, and members of underrepresented or marginalized communities are encouraged to apply.
I like it. I like it. Did you get that, Audrey? Very good. Any more comments on that addition? Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. All right. So is there anything else to be brought out for consideration?
Madam Chair,
Tom?
under, based on the revision we're making on eligibility and or where we place that, which currently lives in line item number 2, I would like to suggest to the commissioners, we need a statement from the potential artists to understand their NESS, their NESS. For instance, I would like, in part of it could be an addition to 2.A, or it might be 2.E, a brief statement of what inspires them, why they are inspired for the specific location that we've identified. Why are you inspired for one of the 3 locations that we voted on earlier? And what inspires you about bringing art to Meridian? And I think what I'm looking for, and maybe that's not the correct language, but I'm looking to hear from the potential artist, why do they want to create art for Meridian? What inspires them about the Treasure Valley? And I think it's an important look into their nests. And forgive me, being an artist, I don't know how else to phrase that, but I think to my fellow commissioners, they'll understand that.
Yes, thank you. I think that could be language added to 2D, a letter of interest that includes a statement specifying which murals they're interested in. Artists may be considered for all murals, however, will only be selected for one mural. And I think it could be included there in D, because that would it might be confusing if we put E, because then they would think there would be 2 letters. The letter of interest could include a statement specifying which murals the artist is also, and then so after the parent, artists may be considered for all murals, however, will only be selected for one mural. After the parent, please also include in your letter why you are interested in bringing art to Meridian, your vision for the location that you would prefer,
and or what inspires you about that location.
Yes.
An artist could say, I'm inspired by one of, for instance, for this conversation, they may say, I'm inspired by the Boise Co-op because of the surface texture, and what I'm proposing, the visual will be on that texture. It will augment and represent more greatly. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for their composition, their nest. That's what I want to hear from them.
Yes. So could you, do you think that's a good place to put it in D? And do you think that maybe we should put a letter of interest that includes a statement specifying which murals the artist is interested in, comma, what inspires them about the location that most interests them, comma,
and Meridian and the city of Meridian, or the Treasure Valley, perhaps. I mean,
yes, and why you believe art is important.
Yeah.
In the city of Meridian.
Yeah.
Is that what you were wanting to?
Madam Chair and
yes,
other commissioners, I think why art is important in the city of Meridian is sort of like saying why air is important. I mean, it just is, but why art on this particular building or on this particular surface or on this particular side street or in this particular alley or whatever, don't make it art in Meridian. Make it why you as an artist feel that a mural is important for this particular location. Because what they envision for the Boise Co-op might not work on a different substrate or
true.
surface. So I'd like why they think art is important on this particular location or wall or place, not just art in Meridian. That's, in my estimation, too broad.
Okay, and we could do a combination of them by saying why you think art is important. Ask that. Why you think art would be effective in this location in Meridian.
Yeah.
I
Madam
think
Chair,
there's something to
Or
say
inspirational.
how it relates to Meridian. I think it should speak something to Meridian in their statement.
Yes, and that's what I'm thinking, a kind of a combination of the two ideas where you have, yes, exactly what you said, where we mention Meridian, but we also make it specific to the location. And verbiage, do you think it would be best to say what inspires you to place art in this location in Meridian? Maybe that's a little bit more specific, and I think that's, I use the word effective, which I think is not what we're looking for here. Tom?
I'd like to recommend, yes, I'd like to recommend language that, and let's simplify it because it opens it up to more of an open-ended question or statement, which allows the artist to pontificate. What inspires you about the location you're choosing, and what inspires you about the city of Meridian?
Right.
I like that. What inspires you about the location you've chosen, and what inspires you about the city of Meridian? Audrey, are you keeping up? Okay.
Because I'm hoping that we are generating the type of response that a potential artist would say, I believe this location X, will bring my vision to life because of the history of Meridian and the texture of this canvas, and here's my vision to do that. That's what I'm hoping that we evoke, and I think we will. I mean,
I think that's a great addition. I love that. Thank you, Tom. And I think, Audrey, can you read then what you've gotten from this as far as item 2D? How would that read at this point?
Oh, I don't have,
It's not perfect.
I'll work it out as I type it in. But
Okay.
From what I'm understanding and gathering from the feedback from the commissioners, the recommendation is for 2D to say something like a letter of interest, stating what inspires the artist about the location the artist is selecting or applying for, also what inspires you about Meridian. Yes, that's what I've got. Because in, the note that I currently have is that please include a statement about which mural location you're applying for, and that will be answered as they write why they're inspired by the location that they're choosing. So
Okay.
this bullet point will change to basically say exactly the prompt that Tom suggested.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Is there anything else to be brought up or added? I think the timeline looks great. So, Emily, can we make the motion then to approve as amended? Are we clear enough on the amendments that we can go ahead and get this approved today as amended?
Madam Chair, yes, and I would recommend that you authorize Audrey to launch in accordance with the timeline.
Yes. Great. If there's nothing else to be brought up for the discussion, we would consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the RFQ as amended, and that we authorize Audrey to complete those amendments and release the RFQ according to the timeline.
I
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good job. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, everyone, for your input on that. Let's go on. I have to get back up to my agenda. I'm still learning all this scrolling and things. Hold on. Okay, so we are to item 6, review and approve the proposed concerts on Broadway 2021 dates. And they are down below. I believe there's one in August and a couple in September. And that and it coincides with the first. Is it the first one that coincides with Art Week or the second one? The second one. Is that right? Audrey? I can't hear Audrey.
Yes, Madam Chair, could
Oh,
you
there you
repeat
are.
the question? Could you repeat the question?
Oh,
please?
sorry. So the concerts on Broadway dates, is it the second one that is going to be coinciding with Art Week?
That is correct.
Okay.
September 11th is the Saturday completing Art Week, which will be that Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the calendar. September 21st, 2021 is actually a Tuesday. So I'm wondering if that was a typo. I think perhaps we meant the 25th, which would be 2 weeks after the second concert.
Yes, because they go every 2 weeks. So yes, Audrey, did you hear that? I think they're having some technical issues or something. Yes, we'll need to put that as September 25th because those are always on a Saturday and they're every 2 weeks. So that was just a typo. Audrey, hello.
Yes, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Did you hear that? It's all right.
Yes, I think Jessica caught, yes, a typo. The dates are meant to be on Saturdays. So if it's not on a Saturday, then that was a typo on my part. It's meant to be the last Saturday in August, the middle of September, and then the last Saturday in September.
Okay, great. So we will just amend that to the 25th. And thank you for checking on that, Jessica. And if there's no more questions, we will consider a motion on the concert dates.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the dates that we have selected for the concerts on Broadway 2021.
Second?
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So now we need updates from the subcommittees, starting with Initial Point Gallery. Bonnie, do you want to give us an update there?
The shows are selected for 2021, and I think Audrey is in the process of getting those approved and notices out to artists. And the Watercolor Society show is up, and it's a great show.
Gorgeous.
And Natalie did the opening, so maybe she wants to talk about that.
Sure. Madam Chair and Commissioners, I loved being there. I was a little nervous because I don't know any of the people who I thought would show up. But most everyone who came was one of the artists showing. We only had probably like maybe 15 to 18 people show up over the course of the evening. But they all kind of knew each other, and so they were happy to chat and admire each other's work. I personally just loved seeing the community of artists enjoy each other and enjoy each other's talent. So, and there were some really great artists work up there that I just loved. It made me happy that we have such great art in Idaho. So yeah, it was good. Everyone wore a mask except for no one really came between 6 and 7 except for one woman. And then halfway through her walk, she was like, I forgot to put my mask on. And I was like, it's fine. We're 6 feet apart. We're okay. So it was good. It was a really nice evening. I enjoyed being there and being a representative of the Art Commission. It was a good night.
Great.
So
Thanks
I would
for-
encourage you to go check it out if you haven't seen the art that's up there.
It's a beautiful show. Thanks for jumping right in and hosting a gallery opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Anything else, Bonnie, from Initial
So
Point
the
Gallery?
other thing that the next show, the opening was scheduled for Tuesday, which is election day.
Maybe,
So
right.
that won't happen. And it's debatable whether that group will want to do an opening or not.
Yeah, we'll leave that. I mean, you'll discuss it with the artist, but yeah, it doesn't seem like a good day for an art gallery opening.
We've always changed that in the past when it's an election night.
Yeah. So will you just reach out to the artists then and find out what they'd like to do? And if we need to make a switch, we'll see if we can get that done. I know that usually it's a little tricky because it depends on whether or not the building is open.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Madam
But
Chair.
thank you. Yes.
Madam Chair and other commissioners, given the fact that the opening would be on election night and nobody, that's thing one. Thing two is that the last 3 or 4 groups of artists have not exactly been crying in the bucket because they can't have an opening. Everybody's kind of antsy about an opening. I'm not a big fan of letting things slip, but unless the artists in this next upcoming group say we absolutely have to have an opening, let's just, if we can, kind of let it slide.
Yeah, Bonnie,
Yeah, I think it needs to
agree.
be to the artists, if they want to have an opening, I mean, that's part of the. having the
Absolutely.
show. But
Yeah.
we've always moved those dates away from the openings away from the election nights, just because typically there's not a good attendance when it's an election night. Has
Yeah.
been in the past. So
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
City Council is meeting the Wednesday following election night. Their regular meeting
Oh.
gets moved one night. So if the reception is on election night, City Hall will be closed. So that would require Audrey to, I think, either be there or somehow staff you guys to open City Hall and close it back up. So I would recommend that if you don't cancel, that you hold it the next day when City Council is there and the building is open.
and that's, Emily, what we've always done in the past is in my time on the commission, is we've always coincided it with the meeting for the City Council.
Madam Chair
Okay.
and Madam Chair and Bonnie
Yes.
in particular, I put a notice of the new Initial Point Gallery show up on, what's it called? Next door Tully Park, which I know doesn't reach billions of people, but it reaches a few. I would very much appreciate Bonnie or Audrey letting me know about if there is going to be an opening, number one, and the day based on Emily's statement, if it is in fact going to be on the 4th, because I will put that in the announcement, which I typically do on the Monday following the takedown of the current show and the hang up of the new show. I see no reason for posting a new show at noon on Friday when City Hall isn't going to be open basically until next Monday. So if somebody could let me know, then I will post it accordingly.
Yeah, I'll let you know, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Lizzie. And Bonnie, thanks for reaching out to the artists and for catching that. So we will just go forward with that at your suggestion, Bonnie. What if you think it's good to move it to the Wednesday, we will. And we will, if Audrey could just send out an email one way or the other to the commission, informing us of that decision after Bonnie contacts the artists, then we'll be good to go. Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, great. We're going to the Events and Outreach Subcommittee. With Maria's not here, we had to, and we've had one meeting since where we talked about adding some diversity language to our strategic plan, and that's still kind of in the works. I did reach out to a specialist in diversity training that lives in Pocatello and spoke with him a little bit about, I told everyone that I would do that, and he's got some good suggestions. Americans for the Arts have a lot of good suggestions. So that's basically, we talked about that, and we talked in general about, the way we can go forward with the situation that we are encountering with COVID as far as outreach and events. So I think we're narrowing it down. I do think that one of the things that we talked a little bit about this when we were discussing, I think one of the advantages, if there can be any, of something like COVID is that it forces us to think outside the box, and think outreach should include, we're talking a lot about diversity language. We're talking a lot about making art more available to people who maybe can't go to a concert. And so right now there's so much research going on about how to outreach through media. And so we touched slightly on that as well. But Tom was present. Do you have anything to add, Tom?
No, that covers everything that I have down.
Okay, great, thank you. So Public Arts Subcommittee.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes.
I did want to ask though, for clarity with the, unfortunately with our subcommittee not being available for our scheduled meeting.
Right.
I'd like to hear thoughts. Is it appropriate to reschedule for this month because of any type of ideation or interest in creating a proposal for something in the holidays, or has that, or are that train already left? I mean, do we need to postpone our meeting to November, or should we have a meeting in October?
I think we should meet. I think we should still meet because the holidays are coming up, and they, whether or not we can do anything, I don't know because of but I think we should reschedule it. Audrey, can we reach out to Maria?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Maria's sister is getting married this week or weekend or today or tomorrow, so that's why she wasn't able to come today. So I'll reach out to her and see if we can reschedule for later this month. Renee White from the Parks and Rec Department was all ready to go for this evening until we had to cancel the meeting. So she'll come to our next meeting and give us more information on what we can be involved in for the holiday season, Christmas, things like that. So we'll be able to get in on Christmas.
Yay! Because those events are huge. So thanks for bringing that up, Tom.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Any more questions for any of the committees? And if not, it looks like we are looking at November 12th for our next meeting. Yes, Audrey.
Madam Chair, the Public Arts Subcommittee hasn't given their update.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We talked so much about the public art. I think I just kind of lost it. Jessica.
It's okay, and really we don't have a lot of updates. So at our last meeting, we talked primarily about the mural project, and I think it was a great discussion. I think yeah, I think that some of the other locations there were a couple of locations that seemed maybe sort of not as obvious or not traditional, that we were kind of developing some ideas for the future. So yeah, there might be some interest in doing this again sometime if we have more funding for that. So we're excited to move forward with our RFQ and see what kind of artists we have applied to that. Hopefully we have a lot of interest in that as well. The other thing that we're going to be moving forward on is our public art plan. So Meredith provided a presentation a couple months ago, and she turned in her final report. And our next step is, so we've got a meeting next week for the subcommittee, and we're going to be talking about how we go about developing the actual public art plan. So Meredith's report was just mostly about her findings from her discussions with folks at the city. And we are going to be using that report to help us form the basis for our public art plan. So we're going to be looking into possibly having someone maybe helping us out with that, doing a little bit of sort of like what we had about a year or 2 years, maybe it was 2 years ago by now, with Delta Janes doing some assistance, having us have a more structured discussion about what we want to have in the plan. So we'll be discussing that in our next meeting, and stay tuned for more on that.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Jessica? And if not, we really now are to announcing our next meeting, November 12th. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again, Jessica, for being present. And Audrey, thank you for being there. I hope you're feeling better. Okay, good. All right. Now we would consider a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Audrey.
Thank you.
Emily.
Bye.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, everyone.